I saw the concept for this game a while back, and I thought, that looks really neat. It looks like a great traversal system and exploration. I really like the idea of flying with like sci-fi float boots.
Which game is this?
This is Haven.
Ah.
I actually almost quit this game. And the reason is that it is a romance between two Romeo and Juliet-like characters that ran away from an authoritarian controlling society. And they're young. And they're talking to each other and experiencing a relationship. And, well, that's all well and good. It came across as creepy because as you're watching them in the space shuttle, the camera is floating like you are a stalker. It's so creepy. The anime styling, of course, fits with me because I really love anime, but at the same time, just the age difference between me and the characters, it's... Although they don't talk like 18-year-olds. You can tell the voice actors and the writers weren't teenagers. They don't talk like teenagers. I know I have a teenager.
They were not teenagers ever. They just skipped to adulthood right as soon as they hit puberty.
I almost quit the game because I wasn't feeling the story. I wasn't feeling the interaction. Like, they're there. The actors are in it. The voice acting's good. But after about 10 hours, I wasn't really seeing the systems interact in a bunch of ways. There was something that pulled me back in. There's these lines of energy that you collect. These are the things that powers your gear and your ship. And you more have to collect them for the sake of collecting them. They're everywhere. They're not hard to find or anything like that. But normally these lines follow the contours of the landscape. So you just float and collect them over the contour of the landscape. There was one that was going into the sky. And so I started down at the bottom and got taken up into the sky. And what ended up happening is that you say, oh, our boots aren't good enough to do this. So I went back to go do more of that just to see what was happening with the boots. And that's when I found out that this is an RPG. You actually have an active time battle turn-based thing, fighting things for real. The way it works is that the animals have been contaminated by rust, and you're going to beat them down so you can pacify them and free them and let them go along their merry way. Like I said, the concept of that whole romance, happy in exile thing, kind of weird. Then as you engage in those fights and you do stuff together and you cook together and you succeed at doing things like purifying the land and so on and so forth, your relationship gets stronger, and then you get stat boosts. So your blast gets stronger and your shield gets stronger and you get more hit points and so on and so forth. I was playing the game and I didn't understand who it was for.
It sounds like, and from the clips that I saw,
people who are into anime and want to have sort of like a non-sexual sexual relationship bud or bloom, as it were. Like, it's nothing, whatever. Anime around, anime has existed like that, and then the hardcore anime. Of course.
Already sounds like a standard JRPG anyway. The only thing that's a shocker to me is that it took you 10 hours to get to any combat.
Yeah, it didn't feel like
cool.
The thing about it was, like, the first time that you actually entered the combat, it didn't feel like combat.
It didn't feel like
it felt sort of procedural. The turns that the enemies were taking was so long that it looked like you were sort of in a point and click scenario. Oh, I have to shoot my beam of energy at that guy. I have to walk up and punch that guy. It wasn't until way later in the game, after the first boss fight, that I had to begin command. Keep in mind, when you're playing single player, you have to command both of them. So the girl was on my right hand and the guy is on the directional pad on my left hand.
That's awkward.
And so
kind of like a teenage relationship.
And their abilities are flipped. So it is left direction for blast on the guy. It is B button for blast on the girl. It is right direction for the physical attack, and X button on the physical attack for her. And then down for both of them for shield, and up for both of them to purify.
Okay.
That honestly sounds like a headache to play.
Actually, it was, like I said, the whole thing's not very stressful. And it being
Yeah.
turn-based is okay. But whenever you're facing the boss, you're trying to maximize the amount of hits you're getting in before the boss next acts, because
Yeah,
he
this
does a
sounds like
significant amount of damage.
yeah, it sounds like very similar to kind of like not a problem, but it was something I had to adapt to was in Ni no Kune. I still remember that because it's happening in real time and I'm having to run around frantically sometimes as I'm like
And you surfing
lining
without a
up to
pause button.
yeah, and it can be tough.
Yep.
I gotta say, it could be tough.
It was tough.
But I didn't care when a game was that like I beat it. I didn't care. Like the game was too enjoyable not to like just adapt. You game face, game mode. We all know what we're talking about. You just like okay, this isn't gonna get easier.